Alright. Right? We're on. Yeah. Doing test corrections. Second 6 weeks test for 8th graders. Which I agreed to do for some reason. Or I realized it's 28 questions long. That's okay. Alright, so we're putting new work in your test book. Starting with number 1. Talks about sets of numbers. We need to remember all numbers we know of are real. Split into 2 main groups, which is really the focus of this question, which are rational numbers and irrational numbers. And we can put counting, natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, just so we can practice. But really this question is about the relationship between rational and irrational. And if you just think of it from an English standpoint, irrational with this affix or prefix, ir means not rational. So it either is rational or it is not rational, which means there should be no overlap at all, which means the correct answer is A. They have nothing in common. Cannot be rational and irrational at the same time. Okay, moving on. ABC translated to the right 3 down. Which rule describes this translation? So translation means move, right? Which means our rule is just going to be plus or minus. We're adding or subtracting here. So we need to remember that x goes left and right. And a rule always like if it's going left, will be x minus something. If it's going to the right, will be x plus something. And then y doesn't move left and right, it goes up and down. And we know, and if you forget this, you can look at any grid and we see how it's numbered. When it goes up, y is increasing, so y plus something, or down, opposite y minus something. So now we go to our question and we just fill in the blanks. So it says 2 to the right. So that's this right here, right? 2 to the right. So it's going to be x plus 2. So part of our rule has to be x plus 2. And then 3 units down. So that's this one, so y minus 3. So which of our answers has x plus 2, y minus 3? That's G. And we could have eliminated both of these, because these are dilations, if you see the rule has multiplication. Okay, number 3. Coordinates are 1, 2, 1, 4, and 3, 4. It's reflected across the x-axis. Which rule describes this? Okay, so we don't have to plot this, but we can. We have 1, 2, 1, 4, and 3, 4. Little right triangle. And it's reflected across the x-axis. So I'm going to highlight, best of my ability, the x-axis. So if I'm reflecting, it means I'm flipping it to the other side. So I'm going from top to bottom. So when I reflect this, I'm going to have, wait, there are 4 points. Oops. Forgot T down here. 4, 2. Not a right triangle. Trapezoid. That's okay. Doesn't change how our answer is going to be. Plot the rest of these. 3 down. This is not 3 down. Sorry, I'm rushing because I'd rather go to bed right now. Real talk. 3, 4. That would go down 4. This one's up 2. Would go down 2. Oh, I messed this point up as well. My bad. Okay, here's our new trapezoid. And none of this really matters, because all we wanted was the rule. What happened here? It moved down, which means our y value changed, but it didn't all change by the same amount. Like this went from 4, 2, right? This point T, and T prime is at 4, negative 2. So what is the difference between these? All that happens, we took our y value, and the sign went from positive to negative. So which of our rules goes from y to the opposite of y? And that's this very first answer here. This will always be our rule if we reflect across x, where x stays the same and y changes. So if we look at b, which isn't right, but it's similar, but this time x changes and y stays the same, this is just a reflection the other way, so across the y-axis. And these other two, when x and y switch places, these are both rotations. Anytime you see x and y switch places, you know you're going to be rotating something. Spoiler for a couple questions from now. Number 4, which of these shows the diagonal lengths in order from greatest to least? Alright, so we're just putting things in order. So G to L, and we just make these into decimals. So if I take my calculator, if I put in 4 times the square root of 3, or square root of 13 rather, I get 14 points, excuse me, 0.42. 14 and 2/5 will just be 14.40. And this one's already a decimal, so I'm just going to write it down again. So the biggest, I mean, they're in order already. 42 is bigger than 40, is bigger than 33, so it's going to be 4 times square root of 13, then 14 and 2/5, then 14.33. Piece of cake. Alright. Number 5. I think this is the most conceptually difficult question because rotations are hard if you don't understand rotations. We'll do what we can here. So it says 90 degrees clockwise. So 90 degrees means it moves one quadrant. And this clockwise part, put it all the way over here, to the right. So this is clockwise going around circle, right? But I'm only going, so I can draw this better, I'm only going one quadrant over. So I'm stopping right here. But if I wanted to keep going, that's the way it would go. So anything that started over here in quadrant 2, if I go 90 degrees clockwise, is going to end up in quadrant 1. Okay? And I know anytime I go 90 degrees, x and y flip places. So if I say, let's just take one point R. Point R is at -1, +7. So when I take the new R, the 1 and the 7 are going to switch places. So 7's going to come first, and then 1. And then for the signs are based off of what quadrant you're going to. And we said it's going to quadrant 1, and everything in quadrant 1 is positive, positive. So these are both going to stay positive. So R is going to be right here. And we can do the same thing for the other points. Like S was at -3, 2. So S prime would be at 2, +3. Right? We take X and Y, we switch places, still in quadrant 1. It's going to be all positive. We do the same thing for P. This is -6, 4, so it's going to go 4, 6. Excuse me. And then -4, 9. It's going to go 9, 4. We get our new shape over here. And again, we don't have to plot it. This is just, we can see what we're looking at. R, S, P, Q. So let's look at our answers. So now X and Y flipped. So it can't be this one here. or B. These are the same answer choices as the reflection one. And we said if y changes, this is reflects over x. And this is E. No, it's not E. I don't know where that even came from. This is just reflect over y. So that leaves us with these two, which we said are definitely both rotations. And we just need to know what happened with our points. So what changed? So 7 is still 7, so y is just y. But x went from negative to positive. So we have the opposite of x, and it's at the end. So y comes first, and then the opposite of x. Okay? If we tried to plot C, it would have ended up down in quadrant 4. Would not work. Again, it's the hardest question on the test, I think. Alright, let's pick up some time. So I'm dying over here. Slope and intercept of the graph of the linear function on the grid. Okay, so slope, let's start here. Let's just rise over run. So I'm going to take these 2 points it gives me. I'm going to make right triangle. This goes up by 2. Right, -2 to 0. And it goes from -6 to +2. It's over by 8. That gives me a slope of 2/8. And it's going downhill. So I know this is negative. Anytime line's going down, it's negative slope. Simplifies to -1/4. And then if I look, there's only one answer with a slope of -1/4. And just to be sure, the y-intercept is y when x equals 0, which is this point where it crosses the y-axis. It's between -1 and -2, which is at -1.5. Answer is H. Okay, number 7. I think they copied this from the last test. Which value of x makes this true? So 1/8 is 0.125. 18% is 0.18. So I want the number in between those. So 1/5 is 0.20. 1.6 is 1.60. This is 0.09. And then the square root of 0.02 is about 0.14. So the only one of these values between 0.125 and 0.18 is D, 0.14, or square root of 0.02. Alright, which of these shows numbers in order from least to greatest? So again, this is a matter of putting the numbers into the calculator and then comparing them. And this is L, G. And since some of these are negative and some of them are positive, I know the first two have to be these. They're negative, right? Any negative has to be smaller than any positive. So if it doesn't start with the two negatives, well, that doesn't help because they all start with both negatives. So this is just 5.17. The repeating sign doesn't really matter. 26 over 5 would be -5.20. So we have to think which of these is smaller. And we know, if we look at a number line, right? Give us some context here. That the bigger the negative, the smaller it actually is. Because as we go further to the left, these numbers get higher, but they're all negative, so they're actually getting smaller. So 5.2 is actually less than 5.17 when they're negatives. This should be first. This should be second. So I know it's not G or J. Then I look at my positives. 37.16, this would be about 6.16. Square root of 33, I don't know off the top of my head, is 5.74. 5.74 is less Let me check this. It's late and I'm doubting my math. No, that's right, 6.16 or 6.17, depending on how you round it. So square root of 33 should be third, and then 37 over 6 be fourths. That would be letter H. Not too bad. Calculator work. Let's see, number 9. Frankie bought a computer, made initial payoff $50. He'll pay $30 each month until it's paid off, which equation shows. Okay. So key here is he's making an initial payment, and then he pays more each month. So both of these are being paid, which means they're going in the same direction, which means we're definitely adding. Okay. So then we just have to look which of these is the rate, or which is the amount he pays per some unit. In this case, it says each month. So this is our rate. Include this $30. Okay, which means this has to be the slope. Oops, 30. And then the initial payment. This is our intercept. That's how much he had to pay up front. Only happens one time, which is why it just gets added at the end. So our answer here is C. Okay? Just gotta know how to read it. You just gotta get used to seeing them. If you don't know how, ask your teacher for more examples. Which statement describes the rate of change for this situation? Okay, so we just have to find the rate of change. So we pick a couple points. Let's say 2 and 5. This is going up 5 over 2. So literally what we said is this goes 5 inches every 2 seconds. So I know that the amount of inches should be greater than the number of seconds, and the rate should be 5 to 2. Okay? So this would be the same as like 10 over 4. You see that's a point here. Or 15 over 6. Or 20 over 8. And hopefully that's one of the answers. 20 inches per second. No. 1 inch per second. Oh, it just wants per second. Oops, I should have read this. Okay, so 5 divided by 2. If we simplify that, that's 2.5 over 1, which is this very first point. Oops, that worked too hard. That's okay. Increases 2.5 inches per second, and we're done. That was all we had to do. It wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. Number 11, which of these coordinate grid does not preserve congruence? The only transformation we ever do that does not preserve congruence are dilations. And as you know, if you've been watching these, dilate means multiply. So if we're looking for the one that does not preserve congruence, we're looking for the dilation, which means we're looking for a rule that involves multiplying. And we need to be a little bit more specific. By something other than 1 or negative 1. LOL. Because like these ones here, you're technically multiplying by 1, but that's not the answer. This is reflection. And if you reflect something, it's still congruent. Adding, this is just a translation. Doesn't make it bigger, just moves it. But this one here, this is a dilation. Specifically, since you're multiplying by 1/7, this is a reduction, which means you're making it smaller. And if you make it smaller, it can no longer be congruent. That's all. Number 12, speaking of dilations, which was applied from figure S to create figure T. So we're going from S, the original, to T, the new, and it's getting bigger. That's an enlargement, which means our scale factor greater than 1. This is than, T-H-A-N. So all I have to do is I have to multiply by something greater than 1. So without even doing any math, I know it's not H or J. And this one says times 2 and times 4. But you only have one scale factor. You can only multiply by one number. So you can't multiply x by 2 and y by 4 because that would change the way the shape looked. So it can't be this one. But in case this was a real question, you would pick one pair of corresponding points and we would just look how they're related. So S is at 2, 3, and T is at 4, 6. And you say, what did I multiply 2 by to get to 4? So 2 times what is 4, and 3 times what same number gives us 6. In this case, is 2 is our scale factor, which is what we multiply by, gives us this answer. That's all. If you're not sure, pick a point, pick the corresponding point, and look how the coordinates changed. Okay? Let's see, number of gift baskets she can make varies directly with the amount of time she spends making baskets. She can make 4 baskets in 1/2 an hour. How many can she make in 5 hours? Okay, so this is a pain because it's got fractions, so let's get rid of the fractions. So if she can make 4 baskets in 1/2 an hour, how many can she make in 1 whole hour? Right, so there's 2 half hours. So half an hour, right? She makes 4 baskets. The first half, 4 baskets in the second. That's a total of 8 baskets per hour. And since this varies directly, why not make an equation? We could say this is y equals 8x, or 8 baskets per hour. And then we know the amount of time is 5. So x is 5. And when x is 5, y would be 40. So she can make 40 baskets in 5 hours, which would look like that. And you can bubble in positive if you want. You can bubble in the 0. You can get these zeros. You get this 0. Really, you just need what's in blue. Alright. 14. On a field trip, which graph models relationship with the same unit rate? Remember, unit rate, just a fancy word. Slope. So 3 adults for every 45 students. So that's 45 over 3, or 15 students per adult. We're looking for a graph that's got this sort of relationship, 15 to 1. And I know it's not this one. Anytime you're talking about a rate, you're not going to have a straight line, because this is saying you've got 1.5 adults for 30 kids, which doesn't make sense, right? Because you can't have 1.5 adults. Think about it. And then no matter how many kids you bring, you're still going to have this imaginary number of adults with them. So don't pick that one. It's got to be a slanted line. So I know I said 15 students per adult, but all these start with 30. So if it's 15 students for one adult, 30 students, it's twice as many kids, would need twice as many adults. So 30 students, you need 2 adults. So which of our answers has 30 and 2? Well, this is 30 and like 0.8. That's not it. This one is 30 and 2. This looks pretty good. Let's check this one. This is 30 and 6. That one's not as good. The only one that really makes sense here is H. You just got to read it, simplify your slope a little bit, look at what your graph's showing you, make positive decisions. Well, the next question's like the same thing. A tree in Dante's neighborhood grew 18 inches the first 2 years it was planted. If the tree continues to grow, which graph best represents the growth rate of this tree in inches per year? Okay. Again, it's 18 inches in 2 years. So we're looking for this. We've got 2 years on all these. And we've got 18 on all these. So let's take a look. Where's 218? I'm just going to plot it on each of my 4 graphs. And it's not on the line for A or B. That just leaves C and D. And we just talked about the last one. Anytime we're talking about slope, it should be a slanted line. This one goes straight up and down. Which means if this graph is true, at 0, after 2 years, it grew 0 inches, but it also grew 18 inches, and it also grew, the same year, 90 inches. And that makes no sense in the context of our question. The only one that really works, letter D. Okay, so that's 2 separate ways you can think about how to solve a question like this. You can either simplify your slope and then pick any point, or if it's nice enough, you can just take the numbers in the problem and then find that point on each graph and see which one works. Okay. Excuse me. Almost there. Which can be used to show the relationship between x and y on the graph below? Remember, y equals mx plus b, where m is slope, b is y-intercept. And for the sake of not working hard here, going up, this is a positive slope, and the y-intercept is below. This is a negative y-intercept. So without looking at any numbers, I know slope has to be positive, so it's not g or j, and the y-intercept is negative, so it cannot be f. There's only one answer left. That's h. We could double check this just to be thorough. If I pick 2 points on the line, happen to be the intercepts, this goes up by 6, over by 2. So m is 6 over 2, which does simplify to 3. This number here. And our y-intercept is at negative 6. That's why it is minus 6. Okay, but as long as they're going to softball these questions for you, just look slope positive or negative. Is the y-intercept positive or negative? And then eliminate all the choices that don't fit. Let's see, what's the y-intercept? Oh, we don't need the whole equation here. We just need the y-intercept. And it happens to be exactly the same as the last time, just negative 6. You just have to fill in. If it's negative, you do have to fill in the negative. You can skip all these, right? We don't have to fill in the zeros. You can if you want. But all you had to bubble in to get this correct was the negative sign and a 6. And then we move on. Alright, Carol will buy the same number of stamps every month because she's cool like that. Add to the collection her grandfather gave her. Okay, that's a little bit a sweet story now. Table shows how much she'll have after X months, how many was she given, and how many will she get every month. We're looking for an equation for this. We want, what is the slope, which is this right here. That's m. And how many was she given? That's b. That's our y-intercept. To find slope from a table, we look at our rate of change. So from 1 to 3 is plus 2. And from 250 to 350, this is plus 100. Our slope is going to be the change in y over the change in x. 100 divided by 2 is 50, or 50 stamps per month is what she is gaining. And if we check that, like right here, this is plus 3, and this is plus 150, and 150 over 3 is still 50. So 50 stamps per month, so it's not G, not J. And then how many did she start with? So the amount she started with would be how much she has after 0 months. We actually have to go backwards. So if we say -1, and then we would take the slope and go in the opposite direction. So instead of adding 50, we would have to take 50 away. So 250 minus 50 is 200. Okay? And that gives us answer F. So she started with 200 stamps. And there's other ways to get this y-intercept if it's not so obvious, but this one was kind of obvious. And we're probably getting tired because we're like at 30 minutes right now. Sad face. Okay. Triangle MP is coordinated with these points. Scale factor of U, center of dilation, which order pair represents coordinates of P prime. So dilation, always. You're still getting these wrong. I feel sad for you. Dilation means multiply. So we're just looking for the rule that's got multiplication. This is adding, that's not it. This is dividing, that's not it. This is adding and dividing. Ugh, that's terrible. This one is multiplying, that's the right answer. That's it. All the work you have to do. You put down means multiply, and then you look for multiplication. I don't even care what the numbers are at this point. Did I skip a question? 18, 19, 20. Okay. Which represents non-proportional linear relationship? Okay, this one's new. Non-proportional means does not go through the origin, or it means that y equals mx plus b, and this b has to be a number other than 0. Okay? So if we look at f, does it go through the origin? Yes, it does. That's proportional. It's not the answer. This one says 1, 2, 3, 4. So the origin is where it is 0. And if this is going 12, 24, 36, 48, that means it's plus 12 every time. So the one before 12 would be 0, because 0 plus 12 is 12. So this is proportional. 2x, there's nothing at the end here, so that's proportional. But this one, there's your key. If it says something x plus or minus a number, it cannot be proportional. That's it. You're done. FGGH is dilated to create this new one. Which rule best represents the dilation to create our new shape? So if we look, it's not a lot bigger, but it is bigger. So this is an enlargement. And just like last time, scale factor must be greater than 1. All I'm looking for is an answer where I'm multiplying by something greater than 1. Again, it can't be these ones, because those are translations. And then I just have 5/7 and 1.4. So the only one of those two answers with something greater than 1 is 1.4. And you can test that. I would take this point here, that's at 10, and this one's at 14. So negative 10 times 1.4 is definitely negative 14. Or you can just trust me. It's getting bigger. You got to multiply by something greater than 1. There's only one answer choice that does that. They don't make these tests super hard. You got to know the stuff. Alright, volume milliliters for fluid ounces is equal to 29.57 times the value of F, which equation represents this relationship. So if we write this equation, it says M equal to this number times F. Whatever F is, if I multiply by 29.57, it gives me milliliters. So 29.57 times 1 is 2957. So when F, and this is going to answer our question, when F equals 1, M is 29.57. I'm looking for F to equal 1. F. So on this side, F never equals 1, so I'm not going to pick these. It's got the numbers, but they're in the wrong order. This one says 1 is at 59.14. That cannot be right, because this one started at 0. But 0 times anything is not 29.57. So the only answer remaining, J. So really, the only thing that should have that could have tripped you up is recognizing that these are the same tables here, but the headings are swapped. So you had to pick the correct labeled table. Let's see, quadrilateral PRST is transformed. So this is +9 + 4, that's a translation. And then what happened? So if we look at our answer, it says the side lengths are twice the size, the angles are equal, side lengths are 9 longer, when the angle measures are greater. Okay, if we translate, our shapes are congruent. Let's put that, congruent, which means same shape, same size, which means nothing about our new shape is any different, except it's in a different place. It's 9 to the right and 4 up. So it's like over here somewhere, more or less, okay? But it's exactly the same size. Everything's the same except the location. So when it says the side lengths are twice as much, nah, that's not it. Can't be it. The angle measures are equal. Okay, that looks good because we said everything should be the same. Let's keep that one. Are 9 units longer? No, we said it's not bigger. This one says the angle measures are greater. That would change everything. So the only one that makes sense here, if you're translating it, everything stays the same except for location. The answer for that one is B. This is more reading than anything else. Okay, 24. Leonard's got 15 toys in his toy box. He adds 2 more each month based on this information, which best represents X and Y. Okay. So 15 in his box, he adds 1 or 2 every month. So if we wrote this as an equation, he started with 15, or y-intercept is positive 15, and then he adds 2 new toys every month. That's the key. That's how we know that's the rate. This is 2x plus 15. Okay. I'm going to look at my graphs because that's a little bit easier to look at. I know our y-intercept is 15, which is right here, which means G cannot be correct. This one, that's good. Okay. I'm going to pick another point. What if I say 5? So this is 5, 25. If I put this in my equation, it should work. So 2 times 5 plus 15. 10 plus 15 is 25. So when x equals 5, y equals 25. My equation works. This looks like a good answer. I haven't actually checked my work here, so I'm going to check these ones. So 4, 8, that doesn't make sense because you can't have 8 toys after 4 months if he started with 15. This one's got 117. And that one, this one actually works. If you look at it, let me move this here. You don't have to write this down. I'm feeling good about my answer now, but just so we can see. So 117. So when x is 1, is y 17. So 2 times 1 plus 15. So 2 plus 15, 17. This is correct. Just this one row. But if it's a table, excuse me, I need to check every point in this table. So when x is 4, it says y should be 68. So 2 times 4 plus 15. And this is 8 plus 15, which is 23. And 68 does not equal 23. So this row does not work. So even though the first row works, you should not have picked this one. Because if you're checking a table, you got to check all the way through the table. We don't have to check all the points on the line because it's a line. We can see it's going up at the same rate. So I just had to check one point here. But if it's a table, you got to check them all because otherwise they're going to trick you. So if you picked H, you got bamboozled. Okay. Better luck next time. Which situation represents proportional relationship? So proportional means y equals mx. I'm going to make it, I swear. So we're just looking for one number times x. We're looking for a single number. We don't want anything else added. So I'm looking for the one that fits that description. So A says $1.30 per pound plus $5. So our equation here would be y equals 1.3 per pound, so 1.3x, but then it literally says plus 5. And that messes it up because this plus 5 means it is not proportional. And I move on. $7 per box, so per box, so y equals 7x. Delivery charge of $3. So again, this is plus 3, and this makes it non-proportional. C, 180 per pound. Okay, so 1.8x. And a coupon, a little bit different. We're not adding, we're actually taking away -1, but it's still an intercept. So it can't be this one. And the last one is a little bit tricky because it says $1.75 per pound plus, right? And I said plus was bad. But if you look, it says a shipping fee of 0.16 cents per pound. So what that means is we're actually adding, but it's 0.16 cents per pound. So it's adding on. So how much are you paying per pound? It's $1.75 and 16 cents. So we combine these. This is 191x. And that's our whole equation. There's no one single cost. Every single pound is going to cost $1.91 because you have to combine this rate plus that rate. So this is the proportional one. A little bit tricky. Test your reading. Let's see, scientific notation. So this is just, you know how to do this. Like this starts with 7.2. It tells you that, right? It's got to be 7.2 times 10. It's always times 10. Then you count how far away from 7.2 is our decimal. It's 5 places. This is a small number. So how do we show it's a small number? Not going to be positive. It's going to be negative. Negative. Got to know scientific notation. Doing it like every week, all school year. 27. These questions are the worst, so I'm going to skip a bunch of it. I'm going to find the slope. Okay, I know slope, rise, over. I'm just going to count. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, up. This is 1, 2, 3, over. My slope here is 4 over 3, and this line is running downhill, so I know it's negative. I'm going to compare that to this big triangle here. What is this? -4 to +8, so this is 12 if you count all those. And then this is from 1 to 10, so that's 9. So that's equal to 12 over 9, negative, okay? And then I'm going to try to ignore the right side. And I'm going to hope there's only one right answer. I'm just going to do the math on the right. I'm going to take all these minus and negative, I'm going to change them to, I'm going to add the opposite. I'm going to hit it with those 7th grade rules. And then I'm going to put it in the calculator. So 0 plus 7 is 7, 4 plus 4 is 8. 7/8 is not the number. I know it's not that. Doesn't matter what's on the other side. 7/8 isn't the slope. B is -4, and then -4 plus 7 is +3. Okay, this checks. I'm going to keep this one. And I hope I can get rid of the rest. C, 0 plus 4 is 4. 4 plus 7 is 11. 4/11 is not our slope. I cross it out. -4 plus 7 is +3. And then this is -4. And this catches all the kids that did run over rise instead. Because it's not 3 over -4, it's 4 over -3. I cross out all 3 of my other answers. It's got to be this one. If I double checked it anyway, this is -12. And -1 plus 9 is actually +9. And that is the exact 2 ratios I got when I counted them myself. Piece of cake. Takes a little bit of time. Alright, which function best describes this graph? Same idea we talked about before, but not quite as obvious. Remember y mx plus b. M is slope. B is y-intercept. My slope is positive. Positive slope. And our y-intercept negative. Let's put it over here. I spelled negative wrong. Sorry. Okay, so which of our answers has a positive slope and a negative y-intercept? Not F, it's not J. That leaves these two. So the difference between 1/4 and 4 is 1/4 is the opposite of steep, which is a word I can't think of right now. And 4 would be more steep. And if I look at this line, this does not look very steep. Looks pretty flat. Flat, that's what I wanted. So G is looking like my best answer. But just to be sure, let's pick 2 points. And they're on the intercepts. Makes it nice for us. Goes up by 2, over by 8. M is equal to 2 over 8, which does simplify to 1/4. Gives us answer G, and it's all over. And we say, thanks, Mrs. McDaniel. Or if Miss McDaniel's not your math teacher, cross that out and insert math teacher's name, because you are all done with the second 6 weeks as corrections. Hooray!